This is On and Off Your Mat podcast, episode 5, Meditation and Emotional Bandwidth. My name is Erica and I'm your host. And once again, I'm happy to say that this episode is supported by Athleta in their effort to ignite a community of strong women who empower each other. As you write a review on iTunes, you will automatically enter a giveaway and get a chance to win a $75 shop card. I'll give you all the details at the end of the show. Now for this episode, I sat down with Emily Leahy. Emily is a certified healer and meditation teacher. I took some meditation classes with her and I really enjoyed her approach on healing and empowerment. Now, before we dive into this episode, I wanted to take a second to define the concept of emotional bandwidth, just so we're all on the same page. For me, emotional bandwidth is the amount of emotional stimuli you can handle on a day-to-day, month-to-month, or even year-to-year basis. When it gets maxed out, you feel overwhelmed and you will react a certain way. Maybe you shut down, maybe you get angry. It all depends on your personality. So on that note, take a listen and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining me today, being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I know you do way more than meditation, so why don't you describe what is it you do?
I'm a certified energy healer, meditation teacher, and spiritual guide within an ancient mystery school. And this school is called the Modern Mystery School.
And you want to say a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Mystery School, it's a spiritual pathway and ways to learn more about self-mastery, learn more about yourself. And so the main focus is on the more you know yourself, the more you can be of service to the world. And through a lot of these ancient techniques, I have found within my own journey and sharing this, that it's really possible to get over some of the patterns that keep people stuck. And this is something that isn't channeled. It's not something that is like new. These are 3,000-year-old practices that have been passed down from teacher to student orally over these years. And it's really powerful because things are passed down within the auric field. And there's certain keys that awaken this hidden wisdom within each person to find their own answers and their own power within, and really activating the will, which is where a lot of people are getting stuck and moving forward.
You're already saying so many little gems that I want to come back to it.
Yeah.
But before we get there, how did you get into this? Was spirituality always part of your life, or how?
In hindsight, I was always sensitive, but I did shut down, probably in elementary school, middle school, and yet I was always looking for my purpose, and I was always curious. My journey started in 2004, though, and that yoga really opened up the door for me for something much more that went beyond the physical body. And I had an eating disorder and I had a lot of anxiety and suffered from depression. And although yoga and other practices did help me stabilize and get to a certain level, I was still feeling rather scattered in my mission day to day. And I was looking for something that would ground me.
So you do workshops, obviously, in classes, but you do one-on-one session as well. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So what do people look for when they come to you?
What people are looking for when they come to me is most of the time they're going to the next level in their life, whether it's emotionally, mentally, whether it's in relationship or career, and they're looking for a sense of stability within themselves, and they're also looking for some kind of support in going about that, and they're looking for something that's going to support them long term in their service to others.
So guidance.
Definitely guidance, inwardly and outwardly.
Okay. So how does a session look, like a first session?
When I work with someone for the first time, it's 2 hours, and we go through a whole intake, getting really clear about where are they at in their life right now. And then I also start with a cord cutting, which helps release certain attachments, certain things that we can hold on to, whether it's attachments from people we've dated or, our parents or even people we've worked with, or we've had a close relationship with others. And then the life activation is where I start, and that brings healing to many aspects of the energetic system. And so there's different ways in which we hold on to shame, we hold on to guilt, we hold on to past experiences that really weigh us down. And this is about coming back to that more expansive space, also while grounding energy into this world.
So letting go,
Mm-hmm.
grounding yourself.
Yeah.
And then the main goal is to find what we desire, need in life, or where we want to go.
Yeah, because a lot of people suffer from apathy. And there's just resistance to moving forward in some way. There's something that is holding them back, whether they're aware of it or not. And so what I have found to be most helpful in my journey is when I figure that out for myself. There's no one that can really tell me. It's usually in the moment where we're given a choice. And this energy that comes through really activates the willpower to then make a new choice. And it's a catalyst to shift that person's life. And there's also energy coming into the DNA where there's ancestral trauma and things like that it's almost impossible to process on a mental level. It's something more energetically that can shift.
I have to mention your website and your handle on social media is Return to Sacred. And one, I love it. And two, for me, it really ties in together everything you do. Would you say that returning to sacred is kind of returning to home, or what does that mean for you?
Yeah. Well, most of my life I knew how maybe I didn't want to live. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And I experienced maybe a lot of drama in my life, a lot of worry, a lot of fear. And it was the way that I perceived my world based on my own perception. I was looking through this lens in a way that was colored with my own past traumas and different experiences that I've had. And when I started to strip that away, I just came back to the simplicity of now in the deepest sense possible. And I had finally discovered that there's so much beauty and love just like waiting for me there when I was connecting to that sacred place.
That's so beautiful. So what would you say is really sacred now?
To me, what is really sacred is the quiet moments when I'm feeling truly connected and divinely guided by myself, or the moments when I'm serving someone and I'm feeling like I'm just the vessel to bring that through, and it becomes less about me and it becomes more about the truth of what's really going on. And so there's less of me getting in the way.
So would you say that this is where you start in your journey? Like do you encourage people to find what's sacred to them? Is that kind of a starting point to know what they're looking for, to know what's important to them?
This work really is about finding what your wants and needs are in life. And
it sounds so simple. What do you need? What do you want? But it's not that simple.
It's not, because usually what we want and need is a result of things that people told us we need, or things that we think we need because we put on a certain mask in order to, move from day to day and survive. It's like to keep feeding that wolf, and it's like that old Native American story of which wolf are you going to feed. And so when you're really feeding your higher self, your best self, however you want to put it, those needs and wants are going to be very different.
Yeah, I totally see that. And that's why I wanted to take that detour to talk about returning to sacred and how it connects with everything else you do. If we start from a place where we know ourselves a little bit better, then it's in that space, for me, in my opinion, we can experience sacredness. We can experience connection or fulfillment. If you don't know what it is you need and what you want, then you're kind of going on autopilot and you're moving through life in a way where you don't know why, but it's not satisfying.
Yeah.
And you might be happy, but you're not really content at the same time. Or reverse, you're content, but you're not fully happy. There's something missing there in that equation.
Right. It's difficult to tap into joy. That feeling uninhibited and just that freedom. That freedom won't be there. It's like we'll be a slave to those things we think we need to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So this journey definitely can dive into moments when, I mean, I never thought I would experience that level of discomfort, but on the other side was so much there. There was so much to the depth of the experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is this where meditation comes in for you? Is that one of the tools to get to know yourself or to get to know what you need, what you're looking for in life?
For sure. Yeah, meditation is one of the number one tools that I use.
And would you talk a bit more about the type of meditation you teach or you practice?
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple different forms of meditation that I personally work with, and that is passive meditation, just like quiet pond. I'm just letting thoughts come in and out, and I'm just being very receptive.
Observing.
Observing. And then there's more active, where I might be using a certain technique to access deeper states of consciousness and going a little bit more into the subconscious mind from that place to find guidance for the day of how I should structure my day, asking certain questions that, you know, in the past I would have called up a friend and said, hey, like, what should I do about this relationship? Or how should I work my business this week? And what do you think about this? And now I have certain tools and I'm able to find those answers through meditation.
Can you give an example of what it would look like?
So, for example, there's one meditation technique that I do pass down that's a shamanic technique. And in this shamanic technique, it's called sanctuary meditation. And the sanctuary is very real and it lives within us. And in order to get into this deeper state, so we're usually in beta brainwave, and this is where we're very hyper aware and we're on the computer, we're driving a car, we're doing sports, but the mind is extremely active. And in order to get into the deeper stage, which is how we access the subconscious mind, that's where healing happens, there's certain techniques that have been passed down through mystery school. And so it's a handing down when someone comes to this class, for example, and there's a clearing within the energy centers, and then we're using sacred geometry. And then there's a little bit more guidance to be able to get into this very deep state. You're essentially hypnotizing yourself. And so when people come to this class, they're learning the technique, but then they're able to practice this at home and guide themselves through it. But it's, again, this is something that the beauty of this handing down is that it awakens something. Like, we know how to do this. We know how to go into these deeper states. We've just forgotten.
Okay, so it's giving people the power back to create or to find those new lines of energy that they might need to tap into their own life.
And as we were saying before, with like, which wolf are you feeding? You know, we have the voice of our negative ego, which comes from fear. It's personality. It's our mask. It's how we've survived in the world, maybe so far in life. And then we have our higher self, which is this part of our being that really wants the best for us. We don't always want the answer, because sometimes it's not always what we want. It's not necessarily
the easiest path.
It's not the easiest.
But it's the one we need.
It's the one we need, and it will help accelerate growth, because then we don't have to keep learning the same lessons or keep running into the same situation over and over again if we can learn to listen. And that guidance is coming through all the time, but when we're isolating the experience and just going in, we can start to form a deeper connection so we really can understand when that voice is coming through. So when you are in your everyday experience, you can start to have more discernment of like, is this the voice of my higher self or negative ego?
And how does tools like meditation or other tools like getting grounded will help you in that? So, I mean, there's so many situations that come up day to day for people. And everything is a choice. Every moment we're choosing something.
And there's an overwhelming amount of choices in the world. And especially, like, think about just like our modern day world with the internet.
Yeah.
I mean,
never ending.
In one moment, we have like a million processes happening. And how do you sort what's important from what's junk?
Yeah.
So it's important to meditate, to be able to sort. It's like you have like a pile of papers, and they're just like thrown like everywhere all the time. Like most people live in a very kind of scattered, chaotic space. Even the most like outwardly organized people, like in their mind, it can feel very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, meditation is really a way to go about your day and really know what's important, because there's going to be so many things thrown at you in a day.
So you said that image of throwing the papers on the ground and everything is scattered, and how much we have around ourselves. But being a sensitive person, you can pick up on the energies of people around you as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that will affect everything else.
So along with being bombarded by maybe information online or different people trying to sell us things, there's empathy is becoming more of like a buzzword now, or emotional intelligence. And so we can pick up on the emotions of others. And that can be overwhelming for many people that I work with. And in the past, it was extremely, I lived in a lot of dysfunction because of that skill that I did not master yet. And what's most important, the reason why I meditate, is because I'm learning to harness a very high energy and ground it into this physical world instead of constantly pulling from the energies of others. So someone who is an extrovert, like they can get high. So if you're in like a big yoga class, like I was in Janet Stone's yoga class just the other day, and I was like, wow, like there's so much energy in this room. Or sometimes I go to Soul Cycle, and I can see now in the past, like I would have really pulled from that whole group to move through my yoga practice or move through my workout. And now I pull more from my own will center. I pull more from this higher source of energy to come through me. And I notice when sometimes I slip because I'm not perfect, and I pull, I can, if I pull horizontally and I'm like pulling from others, that I become, I have more compassion fatigue. I get more tired. I feel like I have all this dirty laundry and I'm not really sure whose is whose, and I end up processing what's not mine. And, we only have so much hours in a day, and we have a lot of things that we want to create and do. So it's important to stay in integrity and stay clean, so that even though it's like living in a city or wherever you live, or if you're serving a lot of people, that you can be able to come back to yourself as quickly as possible. So meditation is a really important practice to be able to understand, like, where am I in this moment? Am I pulling from someone else? Am I pulling from my own highest energy?
So it's a horizontal line versus a vertical line,
exactly.
Basically. And from that place, if we come back to what we were talking a bit more in the beginning, and how with meditation or the different goals of what you're trying to do with your clients, once meditation is in place and you have a practice and you are looking to answer some questions in your life, what are the next steps?
Yeah, so the next steps, meditation is a really great tool, but ritual is something that we used to have in the beginning, in the beginning when the world was created and we were in tribes. We used to have ritual, used to have certain practices that would reconnect us to that source energy, that would help us, remind us of our own divinity and our own higher self. And these practices would help us in answering questions, or would help us shift an experience that we're having, spiritual alchemy. And ritual is something that I teach within a 2-day course, and also there's different classes that I teach that give someone the ability to bring this higher energy, because we're living in a dense world. It's like learning how to ground that higher energy into the physical.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely being grounded is an important part.
Yeah.
Other than meditation, do you have quick tools to help people ground themselves?
Yeah, so quick tools to help someone ground themselves. I also find journaling to be super helpful. And journaling can come up for a lot of people, and I see a lot of people typing, but pen and paper, journaling and writing down, just like what are you feeling in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
It can help someone process. Do
you suggest people journal daily, in the morning, or before going to bed? Is there...
Yeah, it's easy to get dogmatic about when to like meditate or when to journal and do all these things, but I find when you're needing it, when do you need it? For me, I have found that, if I have, I call it crowding out. I notice sometimes I'll go on my phone in the morning because I'm looking for a way to connect. And so it's something I used to always do. And then I think when the iPhone came around, I was like, well, this is more interesting. I'm going to distract myself. But journaling for me is really helpful in the morning when I'm looking for that sense of connection. And I just kind of like write to myself, like, how am I feeling for the day and like what I'm going to do. And so some of that overwhelming or anxiety that I would feel getting started for the day, it would give me the rest. It would give me that connection to myself before I go off and serve and start talking to others.
And try to connect with others.
Exactly. So connecting to myself and seeing where am I at in this moment? Because if I know where I'm at in that moment, I can see, well, I was here and now I'm there. It's noticing the shift. But if I don't know where I'm at, it's difficult to process or know what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, so journaling, and then?
Movement. I find movement and clearing the emotions is very important. I know, again, I see in a lot of my clients, they can get emotionally drunk off of certain situations. Things can trigger them. And when they have some kind of movement practice, like I love a yoga practice, Tai Chi, Qigong. I also teach something called Shido and when I do my 2-day. And so when you're moving energy like that, I find it's really helpful to get into the body. Even if you can take only a few moments to reconnect to breath, it's to clear the thoughts and to clear out some of those emotional triggers that can happen in any moment.
So when you're journaling, you're kind of letting go of whatever you're starting your day with, and then you're grounding yourself, and then you move, and that energy is shifting through your body. So you're passing from different aspects and then kind of bringing it all together.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how I start my days, with ritual, meditation, journaling, and movement.
That sounds like a nice morning.
Yeah.
And then from there, other goals that you might have when you see clients. I mean, in my mind, like you were saying in the beginning, they come to you to find guidance about their will, their feeling of empowerment, or their feeling of purpose in life. So once we have those those practices for ourselves, where do we go from there?
Well, I think that's why I found the mystery school, to be completely honest, because that was a question that I had. And I was like, what's next? I love yoga. I still practice yoga, but in terms of living in the Western world, it didn't really mesh with our society. And I knew that I have a lot of gifts to share with the world, and I was trying to find a way to navigate and deepen my level of self-mastery. So there's a lot to understand about how we move in each situation. And again, how our old patterns, our old belief systems are holding us captive in that moment. And there's a way, obviously therapy was something that I was, in for years and learning more about myself that way. But I would usually get lost in the story and feel rather ungrounded, I think, after a session. So a lot of what I do, I definitely call a friend and I'll process here and there, but a lot of it is learning to drop the story and come into like what's happening right now. And even though like this esoteric work is it seems very out there, it's very practical in terms of shifting to come back to what's going on right now, to be able to make a choice from a clean slate versus making a choice based on fear.
Through what you're saying, it's kind of about the big picture. and stepping away and seeing more than just what's right in front of your nose.
Yeah.
So you can make better decisions, or so you can go into the world and let go of the things you don't need anymore, create space for the things you do want to have more of.
Because a lot of, I think now I make choices not so much based on, is this going to feel good? And now it's more of like long term, you know, seeing it in like just the moment, yes. But there's a couple things happening where I'm like seeing it in this moment, but also what am I setting myself up for in the future? And if I move through this perceived discomfort now, if I lean in to whatever it is that's coming up rather than procrastinating and saying, you know what, this is really, I don't know how to process this right now. I'm just going to like shove this under a rug, put it in the closet, you know, just I'm going to ignore it, whether it's an emotion or it's some kind of confrontation I need to have with someone, or it's making a decision that I just don't want to make. As soon as I lean into that, and I can see, as you're saying, the bigger picture of like, if I really want to serve and reach my higher potential, then this is just as important as all the other things that I'm working on.
One more thing I wanted to get into, and you quickly touched upon it before, and it was emotional intelligence and emotional bandwidth. As you're someone of service and you're taking care of other people, how do you take care of yourself? Other than, we've said a bunch of things already. Your morning ritual sounds amazing. What else do you do?
I would say asking myself, where am I headed? And does this option align with where I'm headed? So I would say the best way to take care of myself right now is feeling comfortable saying no, or just giving myself permission rather to say no. And as I keep progressing forward, there's just so many opportunities and so many options. But the way that I can take care of myself is knowing when to rest and knowing when to work. That requires me to be really connected to myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's so difficult sometimes to know when to do that.
There's pressure to be busy, to work a lot, to be successful, but sometimes we get there by taking a step back instead of taking a step forward and taking a pause and not pushing and trying so hard, but creating the environment and creating what we need in our life for it to happen a little bit more easily.
So saying no, and I have come to find being receptive. How receptive can I be? Like those days that I'm not working, those moments, the breaks that I give myself in a day, filling up. And there's different ways I can fill up, whether it's, I'm going to go take a hike later and go out in nature, but really soak it in. Like I don't plan to like try to be on my phone and do that at the same time. Or, if I'm eating dinner, I'm eating food and I'm like allowing that to nourish me, not allowing to try to be it's just not multitasking. I think, in our world, it's like, I got to get everything done and be productive. And it's that hustle mentality in the past that really led to a quick burnout. And so I'm finding doing less, holding more. And by doing less, I can actually get there, quote unquote, faster to, the life that I'm desiring to create, and every refinement, it's like, well, is this really getting me closer to that?
So with journaling, talking with a friend, meditating, therapy, all those are techniques or way to process your feelings and see what you're taking in from other people. See, if we go back to the line of energy, feel and notice those things. From there, what I hear is respecting your limit, putting boundaries is important. Yeah. Taking care, that's a way to take care of yourself and honor yourself. Noticing the patterns, trying to learn from those patterns. And then how important is it to learn to soothe ourselves when we are overwhelmed, when despite the efforts, we are saying too much yes to things we don't need to be doing right now, or Yeah. Do you have techniques to suit yourself when you feel you're going a little too far?
I love baths.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with baths.
Nice.
Netflix, snacks, in a bathtub. It's like all I need.
And nature.
Nature.
Good. Awesome. Before we finish, is there anything else, any other tools you'd like to share with our listeners today? Things they could do?
Yeah, I would say even if you meditate 5 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes in the morning, and I do have a 10-minute guided meditation track. So if someone is unsure, like, am I doing this right? Am I meditating right? It's like a common concern that a lot of people have when they're maybe just starting a practice. People here would like to receive that track. They can go onto my website and they can put in their email, and that's a way to begin that practice. And it's a full body scan, and I find it's so helpful because not only you're sitting and meditating and releasing some tension where you're holding some emotion, but it's also a great way to ground yourself and feel more centered.
Okay. So you mentioned your website. I'll put all the links in the show notes. Where else can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. So I have some Insta stories, and sometimes I drop light bombs on there or just funny things of just like before coming here, I had to stop at McDonald's. You'll never find me at McDonald's, but I had to go there to charge my phone. There was an outlet in the ceiling. That was the only outlet. So sometimes it's like it's Emily's adventures in life, and you might be able to see some wacky stories there. But generally, I love sharing some insights and different things that I receive that's been helpful on my journey, and so I share that on Instagram.
So thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Super interesting.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. We have other great guests coming up, so make sure to subscribe. Now, if you want to make my day and get your chance to win a $75 shop card from Athleta, head on to iTunes right now and write a review. You have until next episode where I'll announce the winner. If you're new to iTunes review, check out the show notes or go to my website at ericabelanger.com/blog-podcast. And I write my first name with a K. Last episode was also supported by Athleta, and the winner for that giveaway is Thought and Soul. Thought and Soul wrote, I am obsessed with this podcast. It provides such delicious information. I've learned more about yoga in these episodes than I have in the last 5 years practicing yoga. Thank you so much for your comment. So email me at erica.belanger@gmail.com and I'll send you your gift card. See? It's that simple. Once again, thank you for joining us, and until next time.